Welcome back to Used to Sew, a podcast about sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host, Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about shank systems. High shank, low shank, upside down, sideways, inverse, up, down, and charm shanks. Okay, maybe some of those aren't real, but nonetheless, we got a question from a listener about why different shank systems exist, and we're going to run with it this week. This episode starts with love for our supporters in Patreon, and then moves into a very specific question about sewing machine engineering sent to us by a fan. I could not have hazarded a guess at this answer before recording the episode, but now I can, and hopefully by the end of the show, you too can explain the answers. Spoilers, the short answer is capitalism. From the precise details of shank systems, we then pivot to attachments meant to be used on clothing fasteners, mainly zippers and buttons. If you really want to be making and repairing your clothes at home, then understanding how to interact with fasteners is going to be a worthwhile investment of your time.
All right. It's a beautiful sunny day here, and it's mid-January. It's probably February or maybe even March by the time you're hearing this, but no matter what, we're in the lightening up half of the year, and boy, we have lots of stuff to talk about. It's, the sun and 12 cups of tea can just make a person all chipper.
It's true. It is yes, it's winter, but also the cool thing about winter is that the sun is coming back, and it's been really unseasonably sunny here. So we can really see the angle of the sun changing dramatically. Yeah. And it's like, let's get out into the orchard and start pruning stuff and start being prepared for when spring comes. Even though spring is so far away, it's also time to start preparing for spring. Both things are true.
Yeah, good time to prune before the things start getting going. Good time to prune your fabric stash and get ready to go get new fabric, because you're going to get rid of old fabric, right? One in, one out. Hey, and one in, one out. Actually, we are getting more in than going out in our Patreon list of cool people. I have been threatening to read this list, but, being just the content creator and not really, hey, where do I click for this? Okay, I finally figured out where to click, and oh my gosh, we have a new Matreon, damn it. Marley Slatin Valet. I hope I said that right. They joined us at the scissors tier, which is really awesome. We have different tiers. We have needle, thread, scissors, fabric, and I think Singer 201 for somebody who wants to be the top of the heap. Nobody's joined at that tier yet. Somebody will. But yeah, Marley is a new friend here at the club. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Marley. We appreciate you.
And since I just want to read some of our I haven't said these. We have a lot of people that the names I'm probably going to mangle the hell out of them, but I'm going to give it a try. This is a list of our current Patreons. These are free and paid members. You don't have to pledge any money to be one of our Patreons. You do get the ad-free feed, though. Is that right?
Correct. If you give us a little bit of money, $1 a month, then you can have an ad-free feed.
Yeah, right.
There's not really a lot else going on the Patreon aside from posts about that, but there could be someday if you wanted to make something.
Yeah. I'm thinking about making these cool sewing kits and shit. But, I think about a lot of shit, but actually doing it will, stay tuned. I know a lot of you have those unfinished objects. That's what UFOs are in the sewist world.
Wow, personally attacked.
I feel attacked. So here's some names. Uti Kvarnberg, Jenny Elsenberg, Samantha Merrill, Raven, Jesus Ferengi, Emma, Ann, Sarah, Terrence Janelle Demons. Is it Demons or Demons? Terrence Janelle Demons. I like that.
Demons.
Janelle, Michelle Pontius, also known as Corona Hat, Sharon, Angela German, and John Cornell, Chris Bear, Lynette, Hills, Erin DeWitt, Susan, and then, of course, you and I. Matreonize our own channel because we like to see what you see. And then our newest member, Marley. thank you all so much for being in our club. The fact that you all have signed up to be like, yeah, I support you guys. I'll put my name on it. I'll even put $1 a month on it, or 5 or 10. That's really cool, because what I learned back in the old days of sell, sell, sell and advertising was for every 2% of people, if you advertise to 100 people, 2% is a really good rate of return. So if you guys are 2% of our listeners, my God, there really are dozens of you. Maybe even scores.
Whoa.
So thank you all so much for tuning in every week to listen to us yammer about vintage sewing machines, sewing history, sewing culture, and other things that are adjacent to that whole world, and there's no podcast quite like this out there. There's lots of sewing related podcasts and video channels, but this one's kind of got a little bit different flavor to it, because we're unintentionally really funny sometimes too. We also have a Facebook page, and somebody made a comment there this week.
Yeah, so we got a message or comment on our hoarding episode from Betty Jo Wilson. And the comment went, "Loved the episode. I'm halfway into my first hoard," laughing face. "I'm currently into the 158 series of Kenmore's. I would love an in-depth look into the design choices that were made, especially concerning the reasons and best uses of left homing and high/super high shank feet. I could, of course, spend a few hours looking into this myself, but that would leave a few less hours to dwindle down the herd. I do love the smell of Tri-Flow in the morning." And so thank you for making that comment. And also thank you for that highly specific question, which we are definitely going to take and run with.
Yeah, this is a good nerdy question. I'm going to find out all about it, because I wondered that myself, and I kind of suspected the answer, but it's good to actually look it up. Like I said, I know maybe 7.4% of information about sewing machines, and I really rely on a lot of other people's pages who have done a lot of research and put it out there for us. And I'm going to make a list, of all of my frequently referenced pages, so you guys can go peruse them at your own leisure, because there's tons of information out there. What we do here at Used to Sew is we're presenters. We're aggregators. We're giving you guys stuff to think about and look up on your own. Yeah, and as always, if you catch me doing too much bullshit, call me on it. I'll send you a sticker. We've been sending out several stickers lately, not for that reason, but just people want to put them on their car. I put one on my car.
Yeah, remember, there's a PayPal link in the episode description. It's a little bit of a squirrely analog system we've got here. I'm using my other business account to do that. But if you use that link, we will eventually get around to noticing and sending you a sticker. I do promise that. We are keeping track. And my other co-host is like, "Why are we getting sent money? What is this about?" Like, "It's my other podcast. Don't worry about it. It's fine."
We're laundering money through podcast stickers. This is great.
I am figuring out how to make a media empire as I have jumped off the cliff already. Okay, it's going to be confusing.
So yeah, all that stuff. But back to Betty Jo's question. Why does the 158 series Kenmore have a super high bar left homing needle? What is with that? Why did they do that? And we love the 158 series. We're going to talk about it a little more as we go through this, because it's all tied up with that whole mid-century thing, sewing machines. Now the market is getting saturated, so we have to differentiate our machines from their machines, and we want to build repeat customers. So we're going to do what? We're going to make proprietary parts.
Gotta be special little snowflakes.
Right? Because there's the sunk cost fallacy. If you've already spent $500 on a sewing machine, now you've got to stick with that type for all the attachments and things that you want to get.
This is the Apple model, right? This is what Apple did.
Or even the audio industry. Let's start off with shellac, and then we invented vinyl, and then we invented tape, and then we invented CDs, and now where's the music? Where's the cloud?
Oh,
What is
yeah, the media that can just be yoinked at any time because you don't actually own anything unless it's physical media.
Yeah, well, I'm old enough that I've got books, tapes. You got a library. You know what it is.
Yes, I am a librarian. This is a thing.
Yeah. So, Shanks, proprietary stuff. As we learned in the episode about the Singer 301, they invented the slant shank system. This was their bid for schools. They wanted to get the school contract, and once they're locked into this whole new system, they're going to keep with it, right? So this is kind of good business thinking here. So I'm reading from a page. This is really funny. Ashley and the Noisemakers. Vintage sewing machines, noise-making puppets, and more. This person's page is just really awesome.
Wow. That sounds like a really good time. I want to hang out with this person.
There are no ads on this page. It is just chock full of awesome content. So, this is from 2015, but still applies. This is part 3 of an ongoing series. Feed dogs, needle plates. We're going to go look back at those things too, but today we're going to look at the somewhat confusing topic of pressure foot shank type. And there's a picture that shows 6 different shanks.
6? That's too many.
No, that's the modern ones.
Oh, okay.
Back when I was selling stuff, there was 9.
Wait, no, that's worse.
That's even worse because there aren't any more top clamp ones like the old white rotary and national stuff anymore. Those are obsolete. But there used to be 9. If you came in to buy a buttonhole attachment, which we'll also talk about today, I'd have to figure out which machine you had and then which shank style that was. And there were still some top clampers in action back then. Anyway, so here's a picture, and it's low shank, high shank, Singer slant shank, Kenmore super high shank, Pfaff super high shank, and Bernina old style.
Super duper extra jumbo doubly bitchin'. That's what I'm hearing.
So it's not just Kenmore. Usually when people talk about presser feet, they're talking about the whole slew of feet types that accomplish different specialty functions, like zipper feet, buttonhole feet, etc. However, regardless of function, each presser foot attaches to your machine at the shank via a thumb screw or separate mounting mechanism. Over the years, shank shape and height have evolved depending on the manufacturer. Most importantly, each machine only works with presser feet made for its specific shank type. Okay, so we're going to talk about, we're going to skim over this part here, the 5 most common shank types. By far the most common domestic shank type is the low shank, which is one out in the battle. Nearly all modern sewing machines, with the exception of Bernina, use this shank type. This is short of all shanks. It's only half an inch tall. Historically, Singer Manufacturing Company led the pack in vintage sewing machine production. The vast majority of Singers used a low shank foot. However, if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say that it was the Singer Model 15, cloned many times over, which ultimately led to the widespread use of the low shank system. This goes back to the whole Japanese clones and manufacturing. So they copied Singer's common thing, and that's why that became,
It's just simply the most, and therefore it's the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
But before all that, back in the 50s, Singer developed a slant shank system in an effort to differentiate themselves from the pack. First introduced with the 301, they are a proprietary Singer system used only by their slantomatics, and they go on and name them, Rocketeer, 401, Touch and Sew. This new and, quote, improved system was purported to better for more visibility of the needle. Okay, this was marketed to educators and schools, and it was meant to lock schools into buying only Singer. Next thing, Kenmore super high shank feet. So this goes to Betty Jo's question and your question, because your machine has this too.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with Betty Jo. Explain.
Okay. Hot on the heels of Singer, Sears, Roebuck, and Company's line of Kenmore sewing machines were not to be outdone. Produced in Maruzen, Japan, the 158 series of Kenmores were more feature-rich than their Singer counterparts. While the bulk of their machines were low shank, a number of their higher-end offerings started using a new proprietary shank system, the Kenmore Super High Shank. Not to be confused with the similar-looking Singer slant shank, the two types are not interchangeable. They do sort of look similar if you just kind of glance at them. So, no longer in production, these are far less common than Singer's slant shank. Super high shank feet are somewhat difficult to find, especially as singles, so be prepared to purchase a whole bundle of Kenmore attachments if you're hunting for a specific foot. It's worth noting that many of the super high shank Kenmore models have a left of center straight stitch needle position. It's called left homing. So then she goes on and talks about some of the other feet, but we're specifically talking about the Kenmore one here. So what's with left homing? So now we've learned about shanks that everybody was creating a proprietary system. You have to use ours. And Singer and Kenmore both used the real common low shank for their low to medium price machines, and the proprietary shank went on the higher model. See how that works?
Yeah. You create layers of exclusivity and ooh la la and just inflate the price in people's heads because people will do all kinds of brain pretzels for something that is perceived to be exclusive.
You just led right into Bernina there. They have a very, very unusual system that is unlike anything else. That's only for them, and there's no adaptations, and there's no way around it. Single presser feet for Bernina machines, and they've got zillions of specialty feet. You can pay $50 for one foot, but that's the whole Bernina thing. You bought $3,000 or $4,000 machine, you can pay $80 for a zipper foot. Or whatever.
I mean, yeah.
So now I'm on quiltingboard.com. Quilting Board. It's a really cool forum. And there's a machine section. And here's a person named Blackberry. I have some left homing needle position machines. At first I didn't like them much, but have come to tolerate them. However, I still always seem to prefer using the center needle. I was wondering what is the reasoning behind left homing needle position. The machines I'm speaking of are White and Brother. Did Singer ever make a left homing needle position machine? So there's a couple of people that reply here, and there's two reasons. One, these are zigzag machines. Left homing is the resting position. To zigzag, you pull it to the right and then let it go back to the left. So it was a cheaper, simpler mechanic of zigzagging. It was another way to make the needle swing. Remember the swing needle? There's lots of different linkages.
Right. But the origin point of that graph is going to be to the left.
Right. But now there's another reason that I like even better. Think of how you learned about the straight stitch foot and plate. How more support around the fabric from having just one single hole to go through led to a tighter, neater seam with less wandering around than if you used the general purpose plate. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if your needle is all the way to the left, even if you've got your zigzag plate and zigzag foot on, the fabric is supported on three sides without needing to change the foot.
Oh.
So this person, Path49 is their username. This is really useful for any fabric that might have flagging issues. That's where it flaps back and forth as the needle is pulling it up and down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you're using the far left side of the zigzag plate, there's more support under your fabric. So using the far left side of your all-purpose zigzag foot and far left side of the plate, the fabric has more support. Can't pull up with the needle or push down into the hole easily. Very close to the effect you get with a straight stitch foot and straight stitch needle plate. So, Why left homing? Because it was a common and easy to make method of swing needle using spring tension. So the needle would come to rest at the left and then be pulled to the right during a zigzag cycle. The other reason being it's very useful for fabric support and a neat stitch when you're doing left needle. And a lot of people will use, I myself will put my needle to the left or the right, even when I'm straight stitching, to get a certain amount of support on the foot when I'm using my 319, which is a zigzag. So, Betty Jo, there's 2 reasons why the Kenmore high-end 158 series had a super high bar shank.
Wow, that's so. Then why is it just not everyone just like decide to do that all of the time because it's the most best thing ever? Like, or is it just that proprietary differentiation? Oh, we're not doing it like that because we're not doing it like that. Like, why are not all machines like that if that's so tastic?
With any machine that zigzags, there is a way to make it go left.
Gotcha.
A lot of machines will just have LCR, a little left, center, right needle thing. But these ones that rely on the spring, I guess they just have to home back over to the left. As far as the shanks, every manufacturer would patent that.
Gotcha. Are there any reasons that you wouldn't want that? Is there like downsides to it, or is it just basically without downsides?
That's what several people on the quilting board here said. It's once you get used to it, and a lot of machines, it's not just Kenmore that's left homing, a lot of Japanese machines. Again, because these series of Kenmores were made in Japan. So that was like one of the common ways that they engineered how to make a zigzag back when zigzag was getting invented.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's our engineering geekery for today.
That's so nerdy.
It is, but your machine is of that vintage, and we looked up the catalog thing for it, and it was Sears would have a series of machines, and they would start off with good, better, really good, and then Sears Best, and it would have a little star. Twing! And yours was a Sears Best, and it would be the top of the line. I think it was $229 in 1972. I don't have my my calculator up here for that right now, but that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's left homing, okay, so that's not a budget feature then. That's just the way the Japanese engineered the zigzag, as opposed to the way Pfaff or Singer or Viking did it, right? But I'm curious. I know I've seen a lot of left homing zigzags, and most of them are Japanese from the 60s.
Wow, that's really it's not the kind of thing you would ever think of being relevant until you're really deep into sewing, and then suddenly it's like, this is a whole universe of explanation that I need now.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And really, thank you for Betty Jo for sitting there and staring at your machine and going, huh, hey, I know. I'll ask those people on that podcast. They might know.
Sometimes you yell into the void and the void yells back. It's great.
Well, as she said, didn't she say in there I could look it up myself, but then I would have less time for this other thing.
And yeah. Thank you for giving us a side quest to share with everyone.
Yeah, and the Triflow. You use Triflow. Now those are fighting words for some people. Triflow is a lubricant. I use it on my bicycle chains, but I have to admit I have never put it in a sewing machine. But there are some people that swear by it. More experimentation will be needed. That'll give me an excuse to buy the 2 matching 66 treadles at St. Vinny's. And on the left, we're going to use sewing machine oil. And on the right, we're going to use Triflow.
I mean, this could be a great video on the YouTubes.
For $160, we could have a matching pair of 66 treadles. Now look, they got all the stuff. But they've been there for months, $100 a piece. I've got coupons. Yeah. But if I had somewhere to put them, I'd freaking buy them. Just because. Anyway, Betty, since that was such a good question, If you DM us your postal address, we'll send you a sticker. Now she has to be listening to get that offer.
Yeah, we should have a little page.
If we use your question on air, you get a sticker. Or you can just buy one.
Yeah, we need to have a little kiosk.
A kiosk? What kind of a kiosk?
Digital kiosk.
I love the word
on
kiosk.
I know, right? It's such a good word. Kiosk.
Kiosk. Every time we drive by one, I go, kiosk.
Yeah, abso-freaking-lutely.
So now that we got that whole rabbit hole packed full of rabbits, bunnies,
Boing, boing.
boing, 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 which got me thinking about questions about feet and shanks and where does the needle go. Of course, I was thinking about that, and as things do, they like, oh, but what about this? I started thinking about all the different attachments, and then I started thinking about why each one was invented. What job did it do? And I'm getting ready to sell my featherweight, and so I had all the attachments out, and I was photographing everything. And then I went, wait a minute, what originally came with the featherweight, and what's stuff that I threw in later? So what originally came with it? There was no adjustable zipper foot. There was a left-right cording foot. Anyway, I got to thinking about all the feet, and then I got to thinking about clothing fasteners. I don't know how I made the jump from buttonholers to buttons, from zipper feet to zippers. Like, hey, when did those things get invented? And then, like, when was the zipper invented? Do you ever think about that? How long have zippers been around? Do you have a guess?
Well, I know that the Amish think that buttons are the devil's work. So I'm guessing that zippers post-date the Amish having a stance on buttons. That's my guess.
Oh my God. That's a really strange cultural touchstone, I'm thinking. But I'm reading from some college website, Institutional Repository, something. Yeah. They invented them. A guy figured it out. Like, back in we're figuring things out with large mustaches and steam power era.
Sure, yeah.
But it didn't really go anywhere. The rise of zippers, and he called it a clasp closure or something. The rise of zippers coincides with the beginning of the 20th century almost perfectly. So 1900. While at the start of the century, the makers of the zipper had difficulty convincing the public of the utility of the invention. Once the public became familiar with them, they were incorporated into clothing quickly and became omnipresent after World War II.
Yeah, because zippers rule. Zippers are very awesome.
Yeah.
But you pinch your fingers in them once and you're definitely giving them side-eye for a while.
So there is a lot of history about zippers. The basis for the modern zipper, late 1890s. It's only after the end of World War II that it happened, and there's like zipper collectors and all this. But okay, when were sewing machines invented? They were invented and in widespread use. I mean, invented in the 1850s, by the Civil War, 1860s, 1870s, by the 1880s, when Ma got her machine, right? Now regular people can have sewing machine. All right. There was no zippers then. So, okay, we're going to have to invent a foot, because you need to, when you install one with a sewing machine, you need to be able to get the needle right up next to the teeth and sew along this edge. But if the zipper teeth, you can't sew over the teeth. They're metal, right? So they had to invent, oh, well, we have this new fastener. Now we need to invent new sewing machine attachments to put it on. Okay. So, yeah, we start to see adjustable zipper feet. I mean, before that, it was a left-right pair of cording feet. But after World War II, you start to see zipper feet in the attachment kits. Like, they're called zipper feet. Like, oh, wow.
Yeah, they're really cool. I have used one to the point of sewing it too close to the zipper. So that way it's actually like a problem. They're very good at giving you too much range, actually.
Yeah. If you look on the tape of the zipper, there are some sewing guidelines woven into the tape.
Yeah, I didn't notice until after that project was done, unfortunately. But I'll do better next time because, as I've mentioned, I have so many zippers now. I already had so many zippers that I'd bought. Now I have so many more zippers.
Oh my God, you have so many zippers. That makes me just want to make bags.
I mean, honestly.
Because you have all those really nice burly ones. Yeah, zippers are fun. But I didn't realize they were quite that new. And I can't remember which page I read it on here. It was named by the sound it made.
Zzz.
And the first place it was used, where the public got familiar with it, was on rubber galoshes, which are rubber boots that go over your regular shoes. So you put your foot in and then you zip up the side, and then your nice shoes are protected while you go to work. And then you take off your galoshes.
Huh.
I don't think people even wear galoshes anymore, but I had some when I was a kid.
No, I remember learning the word galoshes, I believe, from a Calvin and Hobbes strip.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he walks along, it's just one of those ones where it's silent and he's just walking along and it just says galosh, galosh, galosh. And then he just turns and looks at the viewer and grins because it's just such a funny word. I actually didn't know that zippers were, or I didn't actually know that that was a specific use and design of a galosh. I just thought it was a boot. And I didn't know why we had changed from the word galoshes to boot because it seems like a good word. But now I know.
Now, a galosh is different because it's really large and boingy. It's like an inner tube, and because you need to fit it over your shoes and pants. So it's different than a boot in that it's not primary footwear. It's like a sock for your shoe.
Outer sock.
So the ones I had when I was a kid had these weird metal closures on the front, but zippers were first used on galoshes, and that's where most people got familiar with them. And that was the sound they made. So how did it, change from being a cloth clasp closure to a zipper?
But it was named a zipper. It's not like the colloquialism overtook its real name. It was officially named a zipper.
Yeah, I can't remember who did that, but somebody did.
Whoever was in charge of naming it in the first place was like, well, clearly everyone's going to call it an onomatopoeia, so let's just start there.
Oh, yeah, what zigzag. Zigzag, zigzag, zigzag.
Sure. Zipper.
Galosh, galosh, galosh. They really do make that sound when you walk in them because they're so loose and floppy. They go boom, boom, boom.
I just love onomatopoeias so much.
So now let's go to the biggie, the real biggie. What? The big attachment. What is it? Guess?
The big attachment.
The big attachment.
Buttonholer?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I love buttonholers. They're so cool. I love a lot of attachments. I'm easily pleased, easily amused.
Okay, so the buttons are older than the Amish. Far older.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Amish couldn't have had an issue with buttons unless they, existed when the Amish were getting their collective personality together.
Oh, yeah. Buttons are one of the first things we find in like archaeological stuff, but they weren't used as clothing fasteners. They were just like things that people sewed to their clothes or pinned to their clothes or whatever. In the 13th century, buttonholes, somebody figured out buttons and buttonholes. But clear up until, well, Laura Ingalls in 1880 whatever, when she was sewing at Mr. Clancy's dry goods store, she was hired to make buttonholes.
Oh, yeah.
That was done by hand. It's a very difficult little fiddly process. And when Ma asked her how her first day of work was, the Mrs. White spoke kindly of my buttonholes. Oh, okay. So that's a skill. It takes a lot. It takes, I've done hand buttonholes not maybe 2 dozen times back when I used to sew all my clothes by hand because I was afraid of electricity. Anyway, it takes a long time,
I had to repair a buttonhole once on one of my pants. The thread just totally was coming out of the buttonhole, and it was about half undone. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. So I stitched it all back up. I only had to do half of it because the other half was still fine, and I just covered the ends. And I was really annoyed at. I mean, it was fine. It took me a reasonable amount of time, but I was like, I love my buttonhole maker. I would not do even one by hand if I could choose otherwise.
Oh gosh, no. Look in the old in our sewing room library there, the old Singer book that shows how to do hand buttonholes, and then they show you how to use a buttonhole attachment to make it look like hand buttonholes. There's a whole different way to set it up. But buttonhole attachment that you can put on your sewing machine. First, when they were invented, they had all these different wing nuts so you could set. Okay, well, wait a minute. We're talking straight stitch machine here. The button holder, if you've never seen one work, it's got a driving fork that fits over the needle clamp that goes up and down. And that fork moves a whole lot of machinery that makes the somewhat grippy plate of the thing physically move the fabric back and forth. So a straight stitch machine can make a zigzag. How cool is that? So that was, but then that's kind of fiddly to set that every time. So then somebody came up with the idea of, hey, let's make these little cams, which, as we know from our engineering stuff, are little round things that follow other things to make patterns go. And so they're making different buttonholes. And these are the ones that go around in a very elongated oval. And I usually let mine go around at least twice. It makes a really firm buttonhole. Okay, let me just tell you here. This is from singerfeatherweight.com, which is the featherweight shop. It's all about featherweights, parts, pieces, trivia. They sell an original Singer vintage low shank buttonhole for $80. Okay, now I find these things in thrift stores for between $5 and $15. A lot of times they don't work because, like a sewing machine, they're all gummed up inside. They actually need cleaning and oiling and lubing and all that stuff. Old Singer trivia. Did you know that in 1938, the original Singer buttonholer was the most expensive attachment? Yes, it was. To have the mechanics of making a buttonhole with a sewing machine versus the painstaking challenge of sewing one secure enough by hand was an engineering marvel. The buttonholer was priced at $8.70 in 1938.
I don't need a calculator to know that was a lot of money.
Okay, I went to a site that calculates, so we know. The featherweight itself cost $88 in 1938.
The buttonholer cost 10% of the whole machine. That's very expensive.
Okay, so the cost of the machine in today's dollars, $2,000.
Okay, so that makes it a $200 attachment.
Okay, what was the wage for an average skilled worker then? It was $100 a month. So this is why Singer sold machines on credit. Nobody could afford one right up front. It was the car of its day, as far as this is why buying on credit was invented. Why? Why? The sewing machine. The sewing machine is the foundational source of buy it, pay later, buy now, pay on time. Yeah.
And so the buttonhole attachment itself was basically too much to buy on straight ahead on its own. That was already like a item.
Usually people had an account at their Singer store, like a revolving credit account, like a department store credit card.
Put it on my tab. I'll pay my monthly amount. Oh my God.
Exactly. I've seen these old payment books and things. So the buttonholer attachment was, in today's dollars, $200.
Damn.
But think of how many buttons and buttonholes you're making if you're a 1938 housewife.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a genuinely time-saving device. If you're going to sew all those clothes, God, that would make your life so much faster.
You're sewing for maybe 6 to 8 people.
And these are people who are going to be losing buttons consistently because they are children.
And check this out. If you're a woman who takes in-home sewing and you've got a buttonholer, this is a business tool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So here people were making $1,200 a year. Okay, well, the featherweight was one of the lower priced machines, right? What did the 201 cost in 1938? Because they were on sale at the same time. The 201 was the top of the line. The featherweight was the little cute thing, not quite at the bottom. It was just, it was the 99 and the 128 were down there at the bottom, and they were $60. Okay. What's the 201 cost? In a cabinet, full dress, $175.
Oh,
which is the equivalent today of $4,000.
yeah. Yeah, I'll bet it is. That is a nice damn laptop is what that is.
Okay, in 1938, a Ford car was $600, a basic Ford, which is today $13,000. So like, a Kia or something. But a sewing machine was not an insignificant purchase is what I'm getting at here. And the buttonholer, that was a big deal. That was the most expensive attachment, but also once you've seen one work, honey, can we have that? And honey's whipping out his dollars.
I've had 2 buttonholers in my arsenal. One of them was entirely, you had to set every dimension manually. It was one of those old ones with the wing nuts. And then the one I have now is with the templates, where you're locked into just a couple of sizes and shapes, but they are consistent across garments, and you don't have to worry about, redesigning your buttonhole precisely every single time. But I have a bajillion weird buttons, so I can't make custom buttonholes. It's a whole back and forth. It really would be handy given the range of buttons I have.
Oh, so we need to get you another one of them wing nut ones. And I bought 3 of those this year and took them apart and cannot get them back together.
Oh my God, it's just like with the Davis. You got to learn.
It's just like with the Davis. Oh man, I was not the kid that took everything apart. That was my brother. I'm living on my brother's land right now, and we both still enjoy troubleshooting and taking things apart. So, it's like, okay, every time I have a problem, he's got bigger tools. So, yeah, shank systems, buttonholers, and you can find these in thrift stores, but make sure it fits your shank system. It's a buttonholer, cool. You get it home and it's like, wait, what's this? It's a top clamping national.
Yeah, I made this mistake recently. I saw a Kenmore buttonholer and I was like, I've got a Kenmore. It says Kenmore. There's tons of templates in it. Like, I get home, nope, wrong shank system. And it's fine. I'm sure it's got great resale value because it is a complete, it looks totally new. All the parts are there. But yeah, that's $6 that I just, didn't need to spend. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, we hang on to stuff. There's a cool place. I'm just going to mention this. We're going to talk about it in a later episode. Central Oregon Sewing Machine and Serger Rescue and Rehab. They've got people like me that like working on machines, and they basically take stuff in, sort it all out, and rehome the good stuff for sliding scale. It's really cool. And it's in Bend. So I'm going to find out more about them, and we'll do an episode and maybe a field trip to that, because it sounds like that's right up our alley. But they take in more modern machines than I would do with, and there's ones they say we do not take Singer touch and sews, period.
We have decided they are categorically touch and throws. We're not doing it.
Touch and throws, no, it's not happening. So that's another cool place. So when you're looking at vintage machines, check out the shank system. And you can Google more for the exact what machine went with what shank. Mostly if you're looking at Singers, they're all going to be low shank, slant shank, or if you get a 66-1 red eye, back clamping, which if you find the attachments for that, yippee. So many people that have that machine have had the needle bar swapped out to use, or had the presser bar swapped out to use regular low shank stuff. But that was Singer's other weird shank system that most people don't remember or think about, because it was only on one machine for like a very few years, 1 or 2 years, and then they changed it. It's like, oops, it's not working. There's no buttonholer for that machine. It doesn't exist. So go out there, search for attachments. When you find attachments and cams and stuff, if you're a buy and sell kind of person, they're not making any more of those. And I think vintage sewing machines is starting to really become a thing. Makerspace and people upcycling. And, it's just part of the whole end stage capitalism collapse thing. So you should probably just, if you've got the space and the time and you know what you're doing, buy that shit and stay threaded.
And there you have it, a set of tangents organized around shank systems and attachments for fasteners. We took a very specific question from an engaged listener and learned a lot. Or at least I learned a lot. I think Mom was just providing all those references for my benefit and already knew most of this info. We talked about how old buttons are, how new zippers are, and were impressed by the cost of a buttonhole maker in 1938. I even learned what galoshes are. Also today, the day that I'm recording this bookend to the episode, I received a note in Patreon asking me how to get access to the ad-free RSS feed if you are a paid subscriber. So let that be a reminder to you, person who is currently skipping past the ads, that for a mere $1 a month and just a few clicks in your podcast app one time, you can have no ads as well. It really isn't hard. Patreon has an excellent little guide to get you through the few needed steps on desktop or your phone to get it set up. I'm always happy to help you if you can't figure it out quickly enough. As a reminder, we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, who do repairs and restorations. You can follow us on social media and YouTube, and you can best support us by sharing the podcast with your friends. You can even get ad-free episodes by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/usedtosew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. Please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com. Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.